All right, boys and girls, we've got to get to the end of this book. So we left off, and they finally met the Whangdoodle. And he just grew some new slippers. And then now they are trying to explain to him how the professor wasn't able to reach them. And they were pretty sad, and they wanted to make sure that the professor had a chance to meet the Whangdoodle himself. So Lindy is saying, oh, I almost forgot one of the most important things. I found it. All right, now I'm ready. So Lindy said, you'd really like the professor, Your Majesty. He's the nicest person in the whole world next to Mommy and Daddy. Is there any way you could get him here? He wants to meet you so badly. I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do, he said. He had exactly the same chance as you. You saw the bridge, he didn't. I can't provide him with a new imagination, can I? I'm not sure he did have the same chance, Tom said. Remember, he had to outguess and outsmart every creature in the land to help us. He gave so much of himself. It's no wonder he couldn't concentrate. Well, yes, I understand that, and I admire the fellow, the Whangdoodle nodded solemnly. Ben had a sudden inspiration. How about if you came with us across the bridge? You could meet the professor that way. The Whangdoodle shook his head. Impossible. If your friend can't see the bridge, then I doubt he'd be able to see me. That's a simple, undeniable fact. There was a moment's silence in that beautiful white room. Then Lindy said in her clear, practical voice, you know, the really sad thing about all this is that the professor could have come here. He probably would have made you, if he could, be here, another Whangdoodle. The Whangdoodle looked at her with wide, unblinking eyes. Then he carefully said, would you mind explaining that last statement, young lady? Well, you see, he's a professor of genetics. You know, he can make life. He told us he could. She gave a matter-of-fact wave of her hand. If he could make life, he can make a Whangdoodle. The Whangdoodle looked at the boys. Is she talking sense? Well, he did tell us the secret of life had been discovered, Your Majesty, said Ben. He told us that he had a great responsibility, and so did we on our hands, added Tom. I would say so, replied the Whangdoodle. He looked stunned. Well, 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 what an incredible fellow your professor must be. It is indeed a shame that we could not meet. Lindy said, we could be rested by now if we helped him, or he could be rested by now. If we helped him, he might just make it across the bridge. It really doesn't seem right to be here without him, remarked Tom. The Whangdoodle suddenly straightened in his chair. Proc! He yelled and clapped his front hooves together. The Proc entered the room. Your Majesty? Come here, old fella. Something rather interesting has come up. Excuse me, Potters. Just for a moment. The Whangdoodle got up and limped with the Proc to one of the tall windows where they stood in close, quiet conversation. Lindy tugged at Ben's sleeve. What do you suppose is going to happen? She whispered. I don't know. Wouldn't it be great if the professor could somehow get here after all? Oh my gosh, my stomach just went all funny. Mine too, said Tom. The Whangdoodle clapped the Proc on the back and turned to the children. Well, we have decided that it would be good if we tried to help your friend across the bridge. But only one may go. The Proc said, I advised His Majesty that it would be safer if only one was allowed out of the palace gates. If all three of you went, there would be no guarantee that you would bring the professor back. But of course we'd try to bring him back. That's the whole point, isn't it? Said Ben. I'm not sure, the Proc replied. What if he doesn't make it in spite of your help? What if he chooses not to come? It is possible. No, I think he'd be more inclined to reach the palace if he knew that two of you were here and being held hostage. Hostage? Ben was horrified. You can't hold us hostage. You can't keep us here against our will. Well, I'm hoping it won't come to that. I'd rather thought you'd see the sense of this, replied the Proc. Tom said, we can leave any time we want. All we have to do is turn around and go home. The Proc smiled. I'm afraid you're wrong. There, you see, I have your hats. There's no going home without them. The children gasped and remembered too late the professor's warning about taking off their scrappy caps. There was a moment's silence. Tom growled, I might have guessed you'd beat up to double-crossing. The Whangdoodle interrupted brightly, oh, now let's not get in a tizzy. There hasn't been a tizzy around here in years. Have some more wodge and let's discuss this in a civilized manner. Proc, you silly old thing, you do lay it on a bit thick sometimes. This all seems very simple. He looked at the children. You want your professor to meet me, and I am most anxious to meet him. The surest way to get him here is for the two of you to remain and one of you to go, and that's all there is to it. Now, which one of you will it be? Lindy turned to Ben. Ben glanced quickly at Tom. The Proc leaned across the throne and whispered, might I suggest the little girl, sir? Really? The Whangdoodle looked surprised. She seems to have the brightest imagination, Your Majesty. Ah, of course, he nodded in comprehension. Ben stepped forward. We think Lindy should go, Your Majesty. Very sensible, the Whangdoodle was pleased. Proc, escort the young lady to the bridge, will you? Hey, wait a minute, Lindy protested. I can't cross that big bridge all by myself. What if that awful bird comes back to get me? The Whangdoodle reassured her, I give you my solemn promise. The Gaius Cutis will not bother you. She turned to the boys. Do I have to do this? Must it be me? Lindy, if anyone can convince the professor to cross the bridge, it's you. He'll listen to you. Ben placed his hands on her shoulders and looked at her solemnly. Think how important this is to the professor. Remember, all of this has to be done. All of that he has done is for us. Can you be very brave and do this for him? Tom said, remember Halloween, Lindy. You were terrific then. Crossing a bridge is nothing compared to all the things you've been through lately, added Ben. Lindy thought about it. Oh, rats, she said in a resigned tone. But I'll need my scrappy cap. I can't go without my scrappy cap. The Whangdoodle nudged the Proc. Get her scrappy cap. Your Majesty, is that wise? The professor might just send her on home. The hats are the secret, you see. That's what helped them to get here. Yes, and if they hadn't come here, we'd never have heard of this remarkable story. It's a risk, and we have to take it. Give her the scrappy cap, silly. The Proc reached into his pocket and produced Lindy's bonnet. She put it on. The Whangdoodle rose from his chair. Miss Potter, I cannot begin to impress you on the importance of this mission. If you can help your friend across the bridge and return to the palace, you will be doing both me and my country a vital service. His coming here could be the most significant thing to happen to us in a long, long time. He produced a beautiful gold ring. Take this ring with you and show it to the professor. It may help. Lindy gulped. Okay, goodbye, everyone. She reached for the Proc's hand. They walked together through the courtyards and the gardens and back to the bronze gates. The Proc swung them open wide. Lindy's heart sank as she gazed out at the long silk span that stretched in front of her. It seemed a tremendous distance to the other side. Oh, I wish I didn't have to do this, she said in a small voice. The Proc was surprisingly gentle. I will stand right here and wait for you. There's no need to be afraid. You couldn't come with me? I'm afraid not. I don't think the professor would be able to concentrate if I were around. Okay, well, here I go. Lindy took a deep breath, grasped the silk handrails firmly, and began to walk. Do you think she'll be able to bring the professor back to the palace? We'll find out next time.